Hi, I'm John from Just Whiskey. If you like today's show, please click like and subscribe and consider becoming a Patreon with the link in the description below. And remember, no matter how good it is or how much it costs, it's just whiskey, folks. Also like to give a quick shout out to John's Liquors in Falmouth, Massachusetts. No relations to me. And Norfolk Wine and Spirits in Norfolk, Massachusetts. And that's where I bought the Gordon Macphail's version of Old Pulteney 21. Shouldn't say version. We'll get into that in a minute. So we're going to be talking about the Gordon Macphail Old Pulteney independent bottling of Old Pulteney 21. And we're also going to talk a little bit about the Old Pulteney 17-year-old. So as we know, a couple of years ago, Old Pulteney discontinued their 21-year-old and they discontinued their 17-year-old. And respectively, they replaced them with the 15-year-old and their 18-year-old, and they repackaged and rebranded. So let's talk a little bit about Gordon and Macphail. This was bottled in 2016 at 43% ABV. There's no mention on the bottle or the packaging about chill filtering or coloring. However, Gordon Macphail does own Benromic, and I emailed Benromic a while back about whether or not they add coloring or if they do any chill filtration. And they replied that they do not add coloring, but they do, in fact, chill filter. So since there's no mention of it on this Gordon Macphail Old Pulteney 21, we have to assume that it is chill filtered, and maybe they've added some color, but probably not, is my guess. I just want to read a little blurb, which I found interesting, about Gordon Macphail. They're independent bottlers, and from my understanding, most independent bottlers buy pre-filled casks from distilleries, and then they bring them to their location and do whatever they want with them. Gordon Macphail, and maybe there's others, but Gordon Macphail is unique in that, I'll read what they say here, casks owned by Gordon and Macphail are sent to distilleries throughout Scotland and filled with new make spirit before being left to mature at the distillery or in our warehouses in Elgin. So Gordon and Macphail has their own empty casks inventory, and they send them to various distilleries. Gordon Macphail's casks are filled with, in this case, Old Pulteney new make, and we don't know if they were left to mature at Old Pulteney or if they were brought to the mainland. My guess is probably brought back to the mainland. Okay, so let's do a little smell. This Gordon Macphail 21-year-old, beautiful, lovely, inviting, fruity nose, and you can tell it's got a lot going on. There's definitely some complexity in there. On the nose, that fruitiness reminds me a little bit of maybe a fruitiness in the Compass Box Peat Monster and the Arcana Peat Monster, and reminds me of a little bit of Kalila. You also get a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of caramel. Really nice on the palate. Again, very lovely, delicate, fruity, maybe a little floralness in there, a little dryness, picking up maybe a little bit of peach or melon. And it finishes with a medium to long but light, subtle finish. And I don't know, people talk about the maritime malt, and again, we don't know whether this was matured near the ocean or further inland. But Old Pulteney is known as the maritime malt, and most people describe the brininess to it. And how I describe it is, it probably is a little saltiness, a little brininess, but it's got a little dryness to it, and it's puckering in a way. And when you pucker a little bit, you salivate, and that brings a little saline ness to the finish. So I could see maybe saying it's a little saltiness, but it could also be the dryness and the puckering factor. Okay. I'm going to add a splash of water, and then we're going to talk about the 17-year-old. Just a little drop there. We'll let that sit. Okay. The 17-year-old comes in at 46%, and of course we know it's discontinued. And they do state that it's unchill filtered. There's no mention of whether there's added color or not. I did go on Old Pulteney's website, and I had a bottle of the new 15-year-old, which I finished. And I also have a bottle of the 18-year-old, which I have not opened. Nowhere on their website that I could find, or on the 18 packaging inside or out, does it mention anything about whether they color it or whether it's been chill filtered or not. So I have to assume with the rebranding of the 15 and 18-year-old that it probably is chill filtered, and it probably has color added to it. But the 17-year-old definitely has not been chill filtered. Possibly some color, I don't know. They do make reference in the back. They say the appearance is a red amber with a rich autumnal hue. So they don't say whether that's a natural color, but it would make sense if they're making reference to what it looks like, that it would make sense that it's probably a natural color, but we don't know for sure. When I had the bottle, the 15-year-old, I was underwhelmed by it because there was, a lot of hype around Old Pulteney 17 and the rebranding and all that kind of stuff. So I was really expecting a lot out of the 15-year-old, and I was really expecting even more out of the 17-year-old. From my memory, the 15-year-old was okay. You could tell it was a quality dram, but it didn't leave any lasting impression on me. And sadly, I would say almost the same thing about this 17-year-old. It certainly is you can tell it's a quality dram. The nose on this is certainly more robust than the 21-year-old, but it's more one-dimensional. Whereas you can tell that even though the 21-year-old is lighter on the nose, it's more inviting and it's got a lot more going on. So the 17-year-old kind of punches you in the face or in the nose a little bit more. You get a slight, very slight hint of acetone on the 17-year-old, very slight, but you can tell it's younger than the 21-year-old. It's more powerful in the palate. I would say a medium-ish finish, but it leaves me from anyway slightly underwhelmed in that I feel it's lacking complexity compared to the 21-year-old. So let's talk price a little bit. Approximately a year and a half, 2 years ago, I bought these, and a couple of years ago, I bought this on sale for $125, the 21-year-old, which it's a incredible deal if you ask me. Now the same store is getting $210 for it. Would I pay $210 for it? I'm not so sure. But at $125, I regret not getting a second bottle of this. It's just really enjoyable. Very nice. And you just want to drink more of it. The 17-year-old Old Pulteney, I paid about, again, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I paid about $118, and I bought 3 bottles of it because I knew it was discontinued and I wanted to stock up on it. I don't regret buying it at that price, and I think you can still find these. They're getting harder and harder to find, but I have seen them online for around $120, $130 still, and I've also seen them as high as $200. So in my opinion, for $118, $120, I have 3 bottles. Am I going to be in a hurry to open up after this? Open up the second bottle? Probably not in a hurry to do it. Again, it's good, but it's not memorable from my point of view. And that's kind of how I remember the 15-year-old, the rebranded 15-year-old, as it wasn't very memorable. And it was good, but it didn't wow me in any way. So how would I rate these? I'd rate the 17-year-old in the mid 80 range. And I like to give ranges because in any given day, your palate changes. So I would rate this between an 84 and an 85, possibly going as low as an 83, but I'll say between an 84 and an 85 for the 17-year-old. The Gordon Macphail's Old Pulteney 21, I would give that anywhere between an 88 and a 91. I would lean closer to the 91 if they made this as a 46% ABV. In my opinion, this would really benefit from a slightly higher ABV. It would really push the flavors forward a lot more if they did that. So I hope that was enjoyable and informative. And if you like today's show, please click like and subscribe, and consider becoming a Patreon with the link in the description below. And remember, no matter how good it is or how much it costs, it's just whiskey, folks. So hats off to you all, and take care.